Hey guys, today we're going to do the unboxing of the Sony PlayStation 5. Yes, this is the PS5. I finally got my hands on one. I've been waiting for over a year to get one, but as many people know, the PS5 is very difficult to find usually because first, for a few reasons really, because the supply shortages, because of the semiconductor shortage and because of all the scalpers buying them. People have bots basically buying these as soon as they are released. And it's just for a variety of reasons, PS5s have just been really hard to find over the past year. But I finally managed to pick one up, and it was pretty much by accident. Like I was on my way back from shipping an item, and I stopped by the mall, and I wanted to eat McDonald's, so I got hungry. And right beside the McDonald's was a GameStop, and I noticed that the GameStop actually had PS5s on the shelf. So I asked them if they had any in stock, and fortunately they did. So yeah, usually, when I see these online, I usually buy stuff online, right? So I usually go to Amazon, I go to Best Buy, go to Walmart, but they're almost always sold out, right? And I don't want to pay the prices the scalpers are asking for on eBay, so I just never was able to pick one up until now. So yeah, the Sony PS5, finally got my hands on one. I know this seems like such a new console, even though it's over a year old. But it just seems like such a new console to me because I haven't really even seen one in the flesh until now. But yeah, it does 8K, 4K 120, HDR, so it has all the latest technologies here. Apparently, the PS5 has a lot more power than the PS4 does, and even compared to the top tier gaming PCs, I believe, and compete with them as well. So the PS5 is very powerful, and given the fact that console games are way more optimized usually, I think the PS5 will be pretty competitive with the top tier gaming PCs for years to come, right? Just like how with PS3 and PS4, they've been fairly competitive for a very long time just because you can optimize the games. Developers can optimize the games a lot better for consoles than they can for PC. So even if you have say a 3080, right, 3080 Ti, the PS5 can really just kind of match that because in the future too, because yeah, developers can just basically optimize their games, and this has really powerful hardware. So yeah, this is a big box. Let's take a look at the back. Lightning speed, harness power, the custom CPU, and it has an SSD. I believe this is the first generation of consoles that have SSDs. All the previous generation of consoles all had rotating hard disks. Now SSDs have been on PCs for a very long time, so we all know the benefits that brings, very fast loading times, but this is the first generation where consoles finally get an SSD, just like a PC. And then you get 3D audio technology. I know Sony has their spatial 360-degree audio stuff. 3D audio, I'm not really sure. Like every company has so many different 3D audio software now, right? So like Dolby Atmos, DTS Sound Unbound, Waves NX has their own, Razer has their THX spatial audio, Creative has their Super X5, Sony has their 360-degree spatial audio, and Apple has their own as well. So it's crazy. Every company has their own special 360-degree spatial audio thing now. So I'm not sure how well that works. New controllers, of course, and yeah, the PS5. I believe this is the I got the disc version because I don't want the disc. The digital version is fine too. I mean, that's what I do with the Switch basically. Is I download most of my games on there. But I think having physical games is also pretty cool. Now, physical games have not been on PC for a very long time, right? We always use Steam or Epic or Origin, right? GOG, all these services to download our games now for PC. But I think there's still some merit in having physical discs, right? First, it's easier to resell, and it's just something to have on your shelf so you can look at it and finally you can see all the games that you own physically instead of going into the library and stuff. And yeah, on top of that, I just think it's easier to lend your games to your friends as well. In addition, the PS5 is an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, so it can play Ultra HD Blu-ray discs. That's something that the PS4 Pro should have had. I had the PS4 Pro, and you would think that Sony, being the creator of the Blu-ray, that they would add support for Ultra HD Blu-rays to their PS4 Pro, right? Because the original PS4 only plays Blu-rays. The original PS4 and PS4 Pro actually doesn't really do anything the PS3 can't do. since it actually can't play any CDs, and it can't play Ultra HD Blu-rays. It only plays Blu-rays. So in many ways, the PS4 and PS4 Pro are very limited compared to the PS3. Because even the PS3 can play CDs, right? PS4 can't even do that. So that's really weird. And I thought PS4 Pro would have the Ultra HD Blu-ray support, but it doesn't. So you got to get the PS5 now if you want to play Ultra HD Blu-rays. So yeah, it's weird that Sony doesn't add this stuff. I mean, Sony, I love the company, right? I'm a huge Sony fanboy, but they make a lot of weird decisions sometimes. Like why didn't they have LDAC on their wireless earbuds for a very long time? I had no idea. They only came out with LDAC now with the Sony WF-1000 XM4s. Why didn't they have that before? Right? Like Sony invented the LDAC codec. You would think that they would add it to all their stuff, right? But they take a few iterations to add it. So it's weird. And yeah, the PS4 Pro should have had Ultra HD's Blu-ray support. But no, you got to upgrade to the PS5, which is very hard to find. So I don't know. Some of Sony decisions are weird. But anyways, so the physical disc version of the PS5 costs $500. The digital version costs $400. And right now they're pretty hard to find. So I actually had to buy this as part of a bundle. So I paid $600 US for this because I get a game here, which is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and I get an extra controller, right? An extra DualSense wireless controller. And for that, I paid an extra $100 US. So yeah. Basically, I got this as part of a bundle because that's the only way I can snag this right now. And that's fine, I guess, because I would probably want to have an extra controller anyways to play with my friend, as well as a game. And I heard this Ratchet and Clank game, Rift Apart, is pretty decent as well. So it's not a bad launch or bundled game anyways. So, all right. Yeah, so $600 US for this thing. A little bit, I mean, that's expensive. But it's still better than, you know, paying the ridiculous prices scalpers are asking for on eBay. So I'm glad I at least got it. Alright, I've not unboxed a home console since I bought the PS4 Pro, just back in 2018. It's been a while. And the last console I unboxed was the Nintendo Switch OLED version. But yeah, this is a home console, so it's quite big. And the PS5 is a big console, so... Alright, here we get the PS5 Quick Start Guide. So that's the base, the console, okay. So you can do horizontal or vertical, just like you can with the actually with the PS4, I don't think you can do vertical, right? You can only do horizontal. But yeah, with the PS5, you can do horizontal version. Horizontal standing, sitting, I guess. Yeah, vertical standing or horizontal sitting, I guess. You can have two positions there. Yep, you can get wireless controllers, of course. I wonder if they have lower latency than PS4 controls. So one thing about the PS5 is that it is backwards compatible with the PS4. That's another reason why you might want to get the physical disc version. Is yeah, it has backwards compatibility with, I believe almost all the PS4 games. So if you have a PS4, right, and you go into a PS5, you should probably get the physical disc version. So you have backwards compatibility. That's something actually the PS4 never had, which is actually kind of weird because for all of Sony's consoles, usually they give you backwards compatibility, at least in the first generation, right? So we got backwards compatibility for the PS3. They can play, actually for the PS2, right? Going back to the PS2, the first iteration of the PS2, the fat version, right? That version could play PS1 games, and then for PS3, the original fat version of the PS3, that version could play PS2 games and PS1 games, and then the PS5 can play PS4 games. So it's only the PS4 that doesn't have any backwards compatibility, which is weird, right? The PS4 is the only console that Sony made, aside from the original PS1, that doesn't play any of the previous generation PlayStation games, at least for the first model, right? I know that Sony, like for the PS3, for example, they got rid of the backwards compatibility for PS2 later. But at least initially, right, they had backwards compatibility. But yeah, it's weird for PS4, they never had any backwards compatibility. So yeah, but the PS5 does, so that's cool. They give you backwards compatibility, and here is the controller here. Ooh, very, very futuristic looking controller with the white-black scheme. Kind of reminds me of Portal. When I look at black-white scheme like this, it reminds me of the game Portal or Portal 2, right? Because it's just, yeah, black and white like that. Very nice controller. So yeah, my first impressions, just handling this controller, it's very nice in the hand. Love the analog sticks. D-pad is very nice. And then I can use face buttons, of course, is all the same. The touch bar and the center button here is same as the PS4 controller. And then this light button right here, it's weird. This should be the start button or options button on the PS4 controller, right? This was actually the button that I don't really use on the PS4 controller. It's like a button to capture the screen. So I'm not sure what that is here. Chargers with USB-C, of course, right? That's keep it up to date. And then you got the standard buttons here, back the shoulder buttons here. Yeah, shoulder and then trigger buttons. So yeah, first impressions are this is a really nice controller. All right, I'll do more comparison in a bit. Let's just unbox the rest. So we got this is the AC adapter cord. I was expecting something bigger. Is that a travel cord or something like that? I would expect something bigger actually for the PS5. All right, we have the safety guide right there. I don't care too much about that. I know how to keep safe, obviously. You know, don't use it in a bathtub. And then you have a USB-C cable right here. And then here you get give you an HDMI cable. They're kind enough to give you one right out of the box here, and this is the cable that everyone should already have, but we do get an HDMI cable now. I wonder if this is the PS5, what kind of HDMI it takes. Is it HDMI 2.1? I think it should be 2.1, right? And then let's see. So HDMI standards are always evolving, right? So I believe the latest is still 2.1. This is the base, which I think you can put the PS5 on when it's standing, vertical position, I mean. So that's the base there. All right, I'm ready to experience play like I've never before. Now the PS5, I wonder if it has ray tracing. This is at 825 gigs. That's a weird number. I think it only says 825 gigs because that's the amount of formatted storage that you get. Yeah, so this number seems really weird. It's not a standard amount of space that you would get, right? Usually you go 256, 512, 1 terabyte, right? So yeah, this 825 gigs is because that's the formatted space, I believe, that is available. So this likely comes with a 1 terabyte storage, but after the PlayStation operating system, right, I'm actually excited to see what kind of operating system they have. Is it going to be pretty different than the PS3 and PS4 operating systems, I'm guessing. But yeah, this is a space after Sony installed the operating system and formatted it. So that's the amount of available space that you have for games. So yeah, it's likely a 1 terabyte SSD, and then this is the amount of storage space remaining for games and stuff like that. That's why they give you such a weird number here. Okay. Okay, pretty heavy. Oh. Okay. Alright, so yeah, this is the PlayStation 5. It is quite a big console. It is quite a heavy console. Quite heavy. This definitely weighs more than 10 pounds for sure. Maybe closer towards 20 pounds, maybe? It's quite a heavy console, yeah. I think maybe like 20 pounds even. It's quite heavy. But yeah, this is a PlayStation 5. It looks like this. Sort of like a giant monolith. So this is the disk drive, right? I got the physical disk version. So there's that, and on the front, there's not a whole lot of stuff actually. There's there's a power button right here, and there's the disk eject button. So I'm glad actually these are a little bit more prominent than on the PS4 even, because the PS4 actually, it kind of just blends in with the console. So it's nice to have the eject button and the power button here that are a little bit more prominent than on the PS4. And then USB-C charging right here, I guess, and USB-A port. So USB-A and USB-C, like just for connecting accessories and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's on the front. That's it. There's not a whole lot going on there. On the back, so let's take a look at what you get on the back here. So on the back, AC adapter, of course, right there, but you also get HDMI, which I'm hoping is 2 or 2.1. Then you get Ethernet jack right here, and then 2 USB ports. And that's pretty much it. There's actually not a whole lot going on in the back either. So I think, yeah, the PS5 is actually quite limited in connections compared to the PS3 and PS4. Huh. Yeah. Especially talking about the fat version of the PS3, the first version. I mean, this is not a lot of connections at all. The first version of the PS3, the fat version, had a lot of connectors. Pretty much everything you would imagine. And then the PS4, you know, had a decent amount too. But the PS5, looks like they don't have that much at all going on. Alright, so first I'm going to do a little comparison of the PS5 hardware right here. So yes, the PS5 are very powerful. It has 16 gigs of RAM, of memory, and the processor is an AMD Zen 2 processor running up to 3.2 gigahertz, I believe. So yeah, those are the specs, and like I said, the output on the back, it's not that much. Like, pretty much you just get these few. Yeah, the I/O is really just these 4. It's just HDMI, Ethernet, and then 2 USB ports, and then you got another USB-A and a USB-C on the front, and that's it. Like, there's no optical even. Like, I would expect an optical kind of output here, but nope, not even optical. So yeah, it's very minimalist when it comes to I/O. And just for comparison, I do have my PS3 and my PS4 Pro here, because the PS5 is actually the 4th PlayStation that I ever bought. The PS3 Slim, this is the 2nd gen PS3. This is the very first PlayStation that I ever bought. Okay, then the PS4 was the 2nd, PS4 Pro was the 3rd, and then PS5 is the 4th. So yeah, now if we look compares PS3, I would say the PS3 this is the Slim version, right? The original PS3 I don't have. Slim version, of course, is lighter. And yeah, disc eject buttons right here, right in front, easy to see. I/O's right here. You can also kind of flip it up like this vertically, but it's mostly meant to be used horizontally. And then we can compare. Oh yeah, there's 2 USB 2 inputs, I believe, on the PS3 Slim. And then if you go to the back here, you see a lot more. Actually, maybe not all that much. I thought there was more on the PS3, maybe not. Okay, not that much actually. So there is the AC right here, adapter, but there's also, this one is used for the video output. Yeah, so this connector here, it looks a bit strange right now, but at the time, it's because a lot of TVs used composite or component input at the time, right? So I would use component input, but later then it got HDMI, so you just use HDMI input. So yeah, you can use component or HDMI. I think that's what I was using at the time. There's an optical out, right, which the PS5 I think should still have, but it doesn't. Then there's the Ethernet connector. So actually there isn't all that much for the PS3 Slim. I was thinking of maybe the fat PS3 probably had more. But yeah, that's the I/O for the PS3. And architecture-wise, it's running a Cell Engine processor, which I've heard is a very difficult processor to program for, which is why it took so long for good games to come out for PS3. Basically, Xbox 360 was beating it until developers figured out how to program for it. I think the Cell Engine is a 3.2 gigahertz, and they did it in collaboration with IBM, I believe. And then it has 256 megs. Yeah, 256 megs of RAM. Not a whole lot. Obviously, you know, PS5 has 16 gigs, which is actually not that much compared to a lot of laptops these days. Like my laptops will have 16 gigs. So, yeah, but just given the fact that it's a console, right? A console having that much is actually pretty good. I mean, given the fact what PS3 was able to do with 256 megs of RAM, I mean, wow. So yeah, that's the PS3. and it can play CDs, and this version can still play PS1, I believe. Can still play PS1 games, and it can play CDs, and it can play Blu-rays. So it actually can still play a lot. The fat version, PS3, the first version, can play PS2 games as well, which is really cool. Yeah. And then I have the PS4 Pro. By the way, the PS3 Slim, I believe, is around... The original PS3 came out around $600, which is quite costly, but the Slim version, I believe, was like $400, I think I got it for. But yeah, PS4. The original PS4 came out $400 as well, I believe. This is the PS4 Pro. So the differences between the PS4 and PS4 Pro, mostly the PS4 Pro has a bit faster processor, 2.1 gigahertz, an AMD Jaguar processor. Both of these are 8-core processors, the PS4 Pro and the PS5. Obviously, the PS5 has a much better updated AMD processor. Right, that's running a Zen 2. This is running a Jaguar, which is a much older AMD processor. And RAM, I think it has 8 gigs of RAM, and the Pro version has an additional gig for background tasks. So basically, the Pro version can output 4K, and it has an additional gig of RAM for background tasks, and it has a slightly faster processor, 2.1 gigahertz. The original PS4 had 1.6 gigahertz, I believe. So yeah, in the PS5, like I said, up to 3.2 gigahertz with their AMD Ryzen Zen 2 and 16 gigs of RAM, so obviously a lot more powerful. But still, the PS4 Pro, I think it's pretty powerful too. I just wished it could play Ultra HD Blu-rays, but it doesn't. It only, in terms of the capabilities, like, I think the PS4 is the least capable out of all, you know, all the PlayStations, right? If you just think about what it can do, right? The PS4 can only really play Blu-rays, and that's it. The PS3 can at least play CDs, and PS1 games, and Blu-rays. In fact, I think the PS3 is probably overall the most capable out of all the PlayStations, because the fat one can even play PS2s as well. So you're talking about PS1, PS2, CDs, and Blu-rays. So that's a lot of stuff that it could play. And the PS5 can play PS4 games in Ultra HD Blu-rays. But the PS4 only plays Blu-rays. It's not backwards compatible with anything. So yeah, that's kind of my disappointment with the PS4. And it's a very weird design. I mean, look, it's got the stack design, which I didn't really like too much. The power button's right here, and it's very integrated with the system itself, so it's kind of hard to see. I mean, look how tiny it is, right? Like, yeah, I don't know why they put it here. Like, this is a weird design. They have a power button here, the disc eject button here, but it's so hard to see because it's like part of this console. That's why I like the PS5 having the... or even the PS3, right? They have the disc eject and power button like very prominently on the console itself, right? But the PS4, it's like integrated into the system. It's hard to see, especially if you put it in a dark corner, right, in your TV stand. Like, yeah, that's annoying. And then it has 2 USB ports right there. The PS4 Pro, it's pretty hefty. It's definitely heavier than the PS3, but it's not as heavy as the PS5, I'm going to say. It's kind of in between. Yeah. PS3 Slim is the lightest out of these, then PS4 Pro, and then PS5. It's the heaviest. I'm sure that Sony can reduce the size, though, with the PS5 later. Okay, so let's look at the outputs for the PS4. Outputs-wise, we get an Ethernet jack, another USB right there, and we get an optical, right, and we get a... This, I don't know what this is, actually. This is some special connector. This is an AV, special AV connector, I'm not sure. This is and this is HDMI. And then this is the, yeah, the power socket, of course. So yeah, that's the I/O for the PS4 Pro. Yeah, if you have the proper HDMI cable, you can output 4K on this one. It's not going to be as good 4K as the PS5, since the PS5 also supports HDR and 4K 120 FPS. PS4 doesn't. And also the PS5 can support 8K apparently as well. PS4 Pro cannot do that. But yeah, HDMI, I don't know what this is. Yeah, I forget what this one is. Then yeah, optical, USB, Ethernet. And that's it. So, like I said, PS4 Pro, I love PS4, but it's, in terms of the capabilities, I do think it's the weakest out of all these. Yeah, I still keep my PS3 around just to be able to play CDs, in fact, right? If the PS4 had been able to play CDs, we wouldn't need to do this. And if it had been backward compatible with PS3, that would be good too, but no. And then here's the yeah, I have to really show you guys the differences here. Okay, so PS3 Slim, smallest and lightest. Well, it is a slim model, right? If I had the first fat version, then it will be a different story. But this is a slim model, so it is the lightest and smallest out of all these. And then PS4 Pro right here, kind of in the middle. And then you have the giant PS5, which is easily the heaviest and biggest out of all these. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The unboxing of the PS5 and comparisons with the other PlayStation consoles that I have. Another thing I want to compare is maybe the controllers. If you guys want to take a look, so this is the PS5 controller right here, and this is the PS4 DualShock controller as well as the PS3 DualShock controller. Compare all these. Interesting. So the PS3 controller I think looks fairly similar to the PS2 controller almost. I did put a wireless adapter here. It does not come wireless by default. It is wired by default, but then you can add a wireless adapter here, which I did. And then it's got standard shoulder buttons. I mean, it's an alright controller. It's not my favorite. The D-pad's okay. It's got the dual analog sticks and the PS button in the middle. Select and start. Again, this is similar to a PS2 controller, I think. The face buttons here. Yeah, it's not a great controller. It's not bad either. It's kind of like just firmly, I think it's just alright. The Xbox 360 controller is probably better. Just an alright controller. PS4 controller, DualShock. I think ergonomically I like it better than the PS3. Yeah, PS4 controller is actually pretty good. Yeah, the buttons right here. The PS buttons move down here. Has a speaker actually on the controller itself. Got the standard analog buttons right there, and the D-pad, face buttons. That's all, yeah, pretty similar, I'd say, to this. And then it's got the center button here as well as a touchpad. That's something that's different that the PS4 controller added. The share button I almost never use. That's just for taking screenshots and stuff. The options is basically the start button, and then it charges with micro USB. This one also charges with micro USB. So, yeah, this is because this was released 2013, right? So that's before USB-C was a thing. So yeah, both USB-C, but at least the PS4 controller is wireless. So, and then the PS5 controller is wireless, of course. Charges with USB-C. I like this controller probably the best out of all of them. I mean, just holding this one, yeah, PS3 controller is just alright. It's not great. Just alright. PS4 controller gets better. I like this controller. Maybe the Xbox One controller, the Xbox Elite controller is still pretty good as well, maybe better than this one, but for me, I think the PS4 controller is definitely an improvement on the PS3. And then the PS5 controller, just wow, this feels super comfortable. A lot more comfortable than both of these. Super comfortable controller. This feels very ergonomic. I think this is this a mic mute button? Okay, they have a mic mute button down here. Speakers, again, kept on the controller, same as the PS4 one. And they kept the rest of the stuff is kept the same from the DualShock for the PS4 controller. So, do they call this a DualShock still? Anyways, yeah, they keep the touchpad and these two buttons from the PS4 controller. It's more clicky too. Yeah, there's almost no click to this one. I mean, you can press it. You don't hear any kind of click. This one, you hear kind of a click. Yeah, maybe that's deliberate. They made it have more of a clicky sound. Okay, interesting. Yep, and yeah, the PS5 controller is the best feeling out of all these. Yeah, definitely. Sony did a great job on the PS5 controller. It just feels great. So, and of course, wireless. That's just the way to go since it's a new generation console. Also, the PS5 controller has the PS button here, which is the menu button basically, and that's the same as the PS4 controller. So yeah, that's the same button here as on the PS4. So basically they took these same elements from the PS4. I think it's pretty much the same. They just kind of redesigned it a little bit better on the PS5 controller. But yeah, otherwise the elements are the same as on the PS4 controller, right? You have the headphone jack right here, PlayStation button right here, which is basically the main menu button, and speakers and touchpad. You have the exact same on the PS5 controller. You have the headphone jack. You have speaker mute. Actually, that's the first. Yeah, that's something that's kind of unique to the PS5 controller, the speaker mute. But then it has the PlayStation button to go to the menu, and the speakers and the the touchpad here. So yeah, almost the same as the PS4 controller, just they redesigned everything just a little bit better on the PS5 controller, I feel. So anyways guys, that's it. The PS5 and my first impressions unboxing the console, the size and the weight of the thing, and the controllers, and my whole impressions compared to the other PlayStations I have. So that's it. I'm not gonna go into any games or anything right now with the operating system. That might be for another video, but for now we're just taking a look at the hardware. So that's it. Thanks for watching.